Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. I'm Jay Bond, and today I'm breaking down our top 10 horror movies of 2015. Coming in at number 10, we have Tales of Halloween. Now this is a horror anthology where 10 different horror directors created 10 different horror shorts that all exist in the same town. There's just a huge array of great talent here, and I'd really like to see a few of these be made into full-length features. Next up, we've got What We Do in the Shadows, which is a hilarious horror comedy that stars Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords. This is riffing on vampires, and it's essentially a mockumentary chronicling the life of a group of vampires trying to convert other people into vampires and just going about their daily routines. It's absolutely hysterical, and I think everybody needs to go out and watch this immediately. Coming in at number 8, we see the movie that we never thought we'd ever see in theaters, Eli Roth's The Green Inferno. Well, this movie certainly has a lot of mixed reviews because it didn't have the same gore that everybody expects from an Eli Roth film. This was actually a really well done and funny satire on the cannibal genre. Obviously, this is a big tip of the hat to films like Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox. A lot of the hate that I've seen online were from people that didn't understand that there was a dark comedy undertone to the whole thing. I mean, you have cannibals that get stoned and eat people because they have the munchies. At number 7, we've got Bound to Vengeance, a really neat twist on the whole rape revenge story, in which there isn't rape in the movie. This movie kicks off when our main protagonist breaks free from her captors and finds that she's in the middle of this big human trafficking ring. So throughout the film, we have a really strong female lead going and rescuing all of the other girls involved and kills her way to the top of the chain to stop this human trafficking once and for all. It's got a great score, beautiful cinematography, and top-notch acting, and I have no idea why this one flew under the radar as much as it did. Coming in at number 6, we have a movie that almost single-handedly revitalized the zombie genre. It's Wyrmwood. This movie was great because it was not only funny, but it was action-packed, and we got to see some really cool armor and weapons and vehicles being constructed by a bunch of guys who don't know how to handle the zombie apocalypse. Or so you think. And without spoiling anything, our main female character has some really interesting and unique tricks up her sleeves to help take out some zombies. Now coming in at number 5, we've got another really funny zombie movie. It's Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. This was one of the most fun I've had in a movie in a very long time. In this movie, we have a bunch of kids fighting a bunch of zombies. It's that simple. And in all honesty, this is exactly what everybody wanted Cooties to be. If you're a fan of Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland, and even Superbad, then this movie's for you. Because this movie was absolutely hilarious. We had some really strong acting, some great over-the-top zombie kills, and they're scouts, so you know that they're crafty when it comes to making innovative weapons to kill zombies with. Next up at number 4, it's the most hardcore horror movie of 2015. It's Deathgasm. This movie was completely outrageous. In a similar vein to Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, this movie pits a group of heavy metal musicians against a possessed town. We have some amazing practical effects, over-the-top gore, and it's just an absolute blast. And if you enjoyed this movie as much as we did, then you'll be happy to know that a sequel is already written and going to pictures soon. Coming in at number 3, we have Astron 6's The Editor. If you're familiar with Astron 6, the guys who did Father's Day and Manborg, there should be no surprise that this is a horror comedy. This is a satire on 70s and 80s giallo Italian horror films in the vein of Argento and Bava. This is their biggest production to date, and it's very evident that these guys put their heart and soul into this one. From the incredible lighting to the breathtaking cinematography, this is the movie that I really hope gets Astron 6 noticed. These guys are pretty small time at the moment, but they are doing stellar work, and these guys know how to stretch a dollar and make the best film they can on a super small budget. Coming in at number 2, we have one of the scarier films of 2015. It's We Are Still Here. This is a haunted house ghost movie that stars Barbara Crampton, and it's just a very strong film from beginning to end. From the incredible acting to the way that they handle possession throughout the film, and it includes an intense, brutal final act. It was refreshing to see a smart and clever ghost movie that didn't rely on cheap jump scares. Now before we move on to our number 1 horror movie of 2015, let's talk about some honorable mentions. We've got Krampus. Obviously, this is probably one of the higher budget movies on this list, but it was an instant holiday classic. We also had another holiday movie that went straight to DVD, which was A Christmas Horror Story. Now, this was a horror anthology that had a lot of things going on. This one kind of flew under the radar, but it's definitely worth a watch. Moving away from the holiday movies, we also had stuff like The Slashening, which was just released by Troma, which is a horror comedy and one of the funnier movies that we saw all year. Another honorable mention, we have Bite from Black Fawn Films. This is a cool indie film whose trailer actually ended up going viral because they actually had people pass out in a theater because some of the gore and the vomit and stuff was a little bit too much. Some more honorable mentions include Unfriended, which I know is an unpopular opinion, but I think they did a stellar job of utilizing a one-screen movie. They were able to use Skype and programs to tell a story for an entire hour and a half, and I wasn't bored whatsoever. And if it had a few more on-screen kills, I think it would have made this list. And our last honorable mention goes to James Cullen Bressick's Pernicious. This was a neat little horror movie that definitely deserves some more eyes on it. It looked great, it had some genuine scares, and you don't have to think about it too much. This is basically a love child of The Ring or The Grudge and Hostel. It had some great gore, it had some great jump scares. It's definitely a Netflix and chill kind of movie. And now it's time for our top horror movie of 2015, It Follows. This should be no surprise if you've seen our review of the film, but we absolutely love this movie. From the masterful cinematography to the outstanding soundtrack by Disaster Piece, It Follows was just a great movie through and through. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews lately, and I know that this film's not for everybody, but for Bloodbath and Beyond, It Follows is the best horror movie of 2015. Now before we go, I do want to say that you might see a lot of movies missing from this list, like Bone Tomahawk, Turbo Kid, Spring, and a bunch of other great genre films. Well, these movies all had horror elements, but I didn't feel they were technically horror movies. So we will have a top 10 genre films of 2015 coming in the near future. As always, thank you for watching, like this video, and comment below with your top 10 horror movies of 2015. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and Beyond.